thinking about getting into the property market, or you're already a landlord, maybe a single or a couple of property landlords, you really need to listen to this video, because there are about 13 points I'm going to make here that will show you the regulatory changes happening, or that's happened already, but also that what are the things you have to make sure you do before you are fully compliant to be able to run the business as it should. So let's get going. So first of all, in no particular order here, so I'm going through, I was making this list the other day. So we've got from October 2022, every property, regardless HMO or not, if you've got a fossil fuel boiler, like a gas boiler, you've got to put a CO2 monitor in that house. It is your responsibility to make sure it's there, and it's your responsibility to make sure that it works. What we're doing now is to ask all of our gas engineers, when they're going out to do the gas cert, to check those as well. So it's been part of our system to make sure that we know we're not missing any one of them. So every year we send all of our gas certs, gas engineers to do a gas cert. They will check the smoke alarm and the CO2 monitor as well. Second, you've got to put smoke alarms. That's been around for a while now. So if you haven't done so, make sure you go and check that your properties have got smoke alarms where they need to be. The third point, right to rent checks. So since the government's introduced this, it's like an immigration check. We have got to check and show that we've done the due diligence, if ever we need to, that we checked whether the person was allowed to live in the country and also allowed to rent. And to do that, if they are from abroad, they will have a visa entitlement, and there's things that you can ask them to share. There's a code that the immigration home office give them to give to you. So you must make sure you do the right to rent checks. You make sure that they are allowed to rent, but also that you can prove that you've done the checks should there be any problem in the future. Fourth, we're talking about deposit protection. If you've been doing this for a while, you've got one or two, and you've never done the DPS, the deposit protection for your buy-to-lets, you've got to get that sorted, because if you ever need to service Section 21, first of all, you won't be allowed to, because you've not protected their deposit. You won't be allowed to do their accelerated possession for Section 21. So make sure get your house in order. If you are doing new tenancies, make sure within 30 days you're registering the tenant deposits, but also sending them information about where you've registered it and that they have signed to say that they've been given this. Gas cert, a yearly annual gas cert, I won't spend too much on that. That's been around for years. Make sure that your boiler is being checked by a gas engineer and signed off. If there's a problem, they will let you know and you'll have to fix it. Latest one is EICR. That's been around now for about 2 or 3 years. Electrical installation condition report, which is basically how the property is in terms of the electrics. The gas cert checks the gases, and the EICR will check all the electrics and make sure that they're safe. You will have to have an inventory for your properties, because when the tenants leave, you will need to be able to prove there was no issue with that house. So inventory, we use TIMS, where there's different suppliers of inventory management, but you've got to have one of those before the tenant moves in and they sign to it as well. Landlord licensing, I mean, HMO licensing, everybody knows, but there's also selective license that a lot of the councils, quite frankly, I don't think it's to do with the tenant safety. It's more around revenue generation, because we pay almost 1,000 to 1,500 quid per property. Somebody turns up and checks and literally walks in, walks out, and never turns up for 5 years. So if it's to tenant safety, if that's what they were worried about, they will be doing an annual check. But clearly they just want the money for 5 years and go away, and come back after 5 years and ask for more money. I'm sure it'll be higher rate as well. So landlord licensing, make sure if you haven't done so, you are checking your council how to register and license your property. Not every council are doing selective licensing, but certainly a lot of them are doing it now, because it's a cash generator, money generator. HMO license, won't spend too much time on that, but if you've got HMO, you must know about this already. If you're renting rooms to people who are not related, and let's say you've got 5 rooms in a house, you will need to be licensed. That's part of national regulation. There are the EPC requirements. So from now, if you are applying for a mortgage, and if you've got an EPC of below E, so an F or G, you're not going to get a mortgage. But if you've got an E, you will probably get one, but it will be at a higher rate. So the higher the EPC rating, the better it will be. By 2025, you will need to have an EPC rating of C or above. Now, 12th, there was upcoming capital gains tax that have just been announced in the autumn statement of 2022 that landlords selling their properties will face higher capital gains tax on disposal of their assets. 13, section 21 is going to definitely be removed. This is the section 21 is basically what people talk no fault, which is absolute nonsense. Nobody's going to kick out their best customers if then there's no fault or there's no problems. So that's been slated to change as law probably 2023, which means it will be harder for landlords to evict troublesome tenants, which they've been using section 21 for. The counter argument to that, the housing minister told us that they are going to reinforce section 8, which is the rules of why a tenant is going to be allowed to be evicted, which will be if you're selling your house, if your relatives are moving into it, or there's antisocial behavior. All of these are great, but when you get to the court system and there's a massive delay, you could be waiting a year before you get that property back. So that's another challenge property landlords will be facing or are facing now. And another one is council rebanding. If you got HMO, you would have heard about this already. Councils are talking about rebanding HMOs into, instead of paying 1 council tax, potentially you could be paying 5 or 6 council tax. Now the challenge with that is, it's yes, we will have to pay it, but we will have to pass down the cost to the tenant. So it's an absolute nightmare. And anybody who's watching this thinks, you know what, it's easy to be a landlord, buy a house, put a lick of paint on it, get somebody to pay your rent, and you know you can go off and play golf all day, is that's absolute nonsense. So not only all of this is happening in the background, you've also got all this regulation forcing private landlords, and 98% of private landlords have got 1 property in the UK. Out of those, in the last 4 years, 250,000 units, properties have been sucked out of the market. And this is why, as I do this video in November 2022, rents have risen significantly, because the supply of properties have completely started to dry out. Even after Brexit's happened and 1.2 million people have been sucked out of the population. So you have less demand from Brexit, but you have less supply from the private rental sector, and that is fueling this crazy price increase in rent. We have our phones, every time we put our property on at the moment in November 2022, we've got between 20 to 30 applicants straight away within the first hour. I've never seen this before. It is completely bonkers, and this is what happens when you start tinkering and you start really messing about with the markets, and the regulation starts to bite over the last 4 years or so. So I'll sign off here. So if you want any more information, follow me on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. I also talk a lot about title splitting. I train people how to go into property investments. If you want to find out more, check out www.quidditygroup.co.uk. You can check out my link in the bio as well. I'll see you in the next video.